we're going to have a brief overview of the Parasound NewClassic 200 integrated amplifier and DAC, which Martin has done, and I'm slightly jealous because unlike any Parasound item I've ever reviewed, it doesn't look like he would have herniated himself getting the bloody things out of the box.
Well, yes, the Parasound 200 integrated is an integrated amplifier. Actually, not too difficult to get out of the box, Ed.
No,
it does have quite a football field-like profile. The top plate is rather extensive. It has quite a substantial depth, I suppose. And a lot of Parasound products, as well, as I'm sure you're aware, are built like tanks, which is
they don't do just enough. It's substantial stuff.
Yeah, but I should note that this integrated amplifier does cost £1,999 in the UK, whereas I believe stateside it's still about $1,200, which does make quite a big price disparity.
Yeah, I mean, even adding in duty and VAT on top of even adding the VAT and the duty on top of that US dollar price, and of course you've got sales tax in the US, so you've got to add that on as well. But even so, that's still.
But even if you average, like, let's say 10% for the highest state tax probably in California, there's still a big disparity there across the pond.
Yeah.
But as some of you may know, Parasound was founded by Richard Schramm, who actually left the organization last year. He's somebody I used to know when I lived in San Francisco. Very dedicated, very nice chap, and they produce fantastic stuff. But he is now out of the equation, although they are still employing the services of John Curl, the rather expert circuit designer, whose name is often attached to the more reference line of amplifiers, namely the Halo line. They're distributed in the UK by Mike and Phil of Connected Distribution over in Cheltenham. Nothing much changes really in the Parasound portfolio much at large. I mean, even this amplifier here, I think, is 5 years old. I think it's a 2018 design, although I may be wrong on that. But nothing changes much. They add occasionally, in more recent years, they added the Zone Master and Z Custom lines, which are mostly for, as they are described, either zoning applications or custom integration, so multi-room applications. And again, because these things are built like armadillos, they can easily be strapped to masonry or up in lofts, whatever job they have to do. Manufacturing is done in Taiwan mostly, I think, even for their reference flagship Halo line, but they've been doing this for many years, so that's not a recent thing. And of course, Parasound has been around for, I think, more than 40 years now. I think they were formed in 1982. So the 200 integrated is part of the NewClassic line, which I guess you could call a more conventional hi-fi line. They have a couple amongst this small range of two THX Ultra certified amplifiers, which are obviously sort of targeted at multi-channel and home cinema. The 200 integrated itself has a 1.7-inch 1U rack space height, and much of the Parasound equipment is directed towards rack mounting and therefore sort of semi-industrial applications. 7.25 inches wide, which of course is the standard for rack width. And rather like the Zone Master and Z Custom line equipment, the 200 integrated does have that kind of signature ribbed front, but although made from or forged from a very high quality brushed steel, and sort of very becoming for that fact, although looking also slightly utilitarian at the same time. 2 channels powered by Class D Pascal amps, 110 watts into 4 or 8 ohms. The great thing about the 200 integrated, it has incredible plethora of connections for all eventualities and future-proofing, if you like, and therefore loads of different applications. If you just want to listen to streamed music, unfortunately, there's no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth afforded to you here. But that kind of is also typical of the Parasound thing. They don't go much for licensing new tech, but kind of stick to the tried and tested technologies of yore. But there is something that's inherently solid and reliable in that approach, I think. Some of the key features involve being able to bypass the preamp section. Now, this can be useful if you're using an AVR that may not have the best quality or output for your left and right music listening, and of course to enhance the front soundstage. You can also use the pre-outs to bypass the power amps up to your own amplifiers. And on board is its own high-pass crossover. So you might, for example, want to push a full signal out to, a pair of bookshelf speakers. Also, in terms of bass management, you can set the crossover on the 200 itself. There's an 80 hertz out, and or you can defer that out to your subwoofer and control the crossover locally there. So there's lots of different options for managing bass. And I have to say, in terms of performance, the seamlessness of the bass management and control in 2 or 3 of those scenarios that I've just mentioned above were beautifully executed. And, I would say Parasound really does have a good hold on this, but, they do have an incredible home cinema, legacy as well at the same time. Lovely dynamics. It's not the most powerful amplifier, but at 110 watts, I guess per channel, you wouldn't necessarily expect that to be the case. Great dynamics, but not of what I would call that kind of heft that you might find with reference amplifiers, or certainly not their Halo line. But it's a very, and I'm sure Ed might agree with this from what he knows of Parasound, but this amplifier is very clean sounding, and you don't find it's imposing any stamp on the performance.
Yeah, it's, there's an American house sound, and I think they're one of the less afflicted by this. It's generally speaking, somewhere close to the straight wire with gain ideal. So it's interesting to see that they've managed. Oh, hang on a second. Just give me a moment.
And just to add, really, yes, I've mentioned the great build quality before. Even if you are paying that premium in the UK, don't necessarily wander over to look at the competition without removing this from your inquiry first, because the Parasound build quality really is exceptional. But again, yeah, like we've mentioned, very high price for the UK market. So always consider Parasound. They're not necessarily the manufacturer that comes up that often at the top of people's lists, but definitely consider them. They're a very dedicated, small team of engineers and marketeers, and I've always been a big fan of their stuff.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Another AVForums review product is in the process of turning up, which is the occupational hazard of doing this during the middle of the day. Right, reviews up on the site, so do check that out. Thank you very much for that, Martin.